everyone. For those of you who've logged in real time to us, you know that we are logged in to Zoom, Facebook Live, and other platforms. We will also be available on YouTube on our Leverage Edu YouTube channel. Today, I'm speaking about something which is very timely. This is the beginning of the intakes for fall 2021. Many of you have admits. Thousands of students are leaving in these weeks. Some have left already and have reached. They've reached Canada, they've reached EU. Some have had to take very difficult travel routes because of the travel ban. So we know that for many of you, this is the time when you're looking at leaving. Leaving also means leaving for great opportunities. This session today is based on some of those things that we will be keeping in mind as we leave for a new study abroad program. I'm Dr. Maina Chawla Singh. I have been a professor and have taught as faculty at universities in the US. I have taught in Israel. I have lived in 7 different countries. Today, I bring for you an educator's perspective to be able to assess how, when you arrive for a study abroad program, whether it's undergrad or a grad program, there are some things just to be alert about, just some things to think about so that you can optimize your fall semester and your academic year. We are hosting this on behalf of Leverage Edu, India's top-ranking university admissions service. We are available to you on many different platforms. You can DM us, you can call us. You also have the option of a 30-minute free counseling session. So you can check out how things are. After you sign up, you will be in the hands of some excellent professionals who will first assess what your aptitude is, talk to you about goal setting, figure out if what you thought is your best aptitude may actually be different from what they find through machine learning and other analytics. Then your journey will be with a head coach who will take it forward. But for those of you who are ready to depart now, you already know that journey. So this was only for those of you who would have logged in otherwise. So first of all, to everybody who has qualified, has an admit, and is about to go, congratulations. We are thrilled that you're all just ready to take off for your dream universities abroad. And we wish you all the very best. In terms of doing well and optimizing what you have invested in, I want to say, you know, the old saying which says to be forewarned is to be well armed. And we want you to be very well armed. You are already well armed with your degrees, which is why you have these fantastic admits. But there are some other things about the international education experience that I would love to speak about in the few minutes that we have today. I would like to speak a little bit about how you can optimize your skills, how you can get the best out of the knowledge and learning that is available. What are the habits of mind that will stand you in very good stead when you go to these programs? I also want to say that, you know, you're going to be there for an experience which is academic, which is also about social and cultural integration. So I'm going to speak about a bunch of different things, hoping that all of these little things will add up to the way that you think about optimizing your experience. So first of all, let me speak a little bit about your space. The first thing is to keep in mind that the space that you're going to is something you should know really well. So I'm going to speak first about the space, then I'm going to speak about academic culture, then I'm going to speak a little bit about the social aspect, and then about the personal aspect, is how you can get the most out of that experience. So coming back to the space, I hope that all of you have already done extensive Googling about where your campus is situated, which is the nearest city, which are the nearest areas that you can go to on weekends for traveling, what is the history and the politics. And believe me, that's really important. When you live in a place, the politics of that place is going to affect you because you're a foreigner. So you need to know many of those things. So if you haven't already, take a very good look at the map. The map will tell you what is in the next 100 kilometers. If you're going to a suburban campus in the US, there are going to be long distances between you and anything else. You need to know how to get about. If you're in Europe, if you're choosing Europe, you need to know what are the levels of public transportation. What are the travel passes that are available to you? So take a very good look at nearby campuses. You might be going to a campus which actually has an affiliation and connection with 3-4 other campuses in the next 100 miles. If that is so, very often those campuses are called consortiums. You might be able to network with professors from another lab, from another MBA program near the school in which you are. So take a very, very good look at the space where you're going to be. It will be a full year, it'll be 2 years, it might even be more. So you need to be as familiar as possible with it. If you need to see the images, take a look at TripAdvisor, check out the weather, check out the shopping nearby. The shopping nearby will become a very real part of your life because it won't just be clothes. You'll be looking at groceries and everything else. So take a look at the map. That's my first thing. Now I want to come to the longer part, the more important part of the academic. What to keep in mind when you're going? The first thing to keep in mind is the academic calendar. The academic calendar is different in the US, it is different in UK, and it is a little bit different in different countries in Europe. The fall intake classes usually begin in the US immediately after Labor Day. Labor Day is an American holiday which starts after the first weekend in September. It might be September 3, 4, 5, 6, something like that. However, the calendar year in the UK begins later. So it begins in October. The terms are also a little bit different. In the US, there is a break of 4 days around Thanksgiving, which is a really important American holiday, and people travel for almost a week and they leave campus. Campus is dead and quiet at that time. And everybody comes back for about 10 days in December before you get the winter break. This is not the same in the UK, although the UK also has Thanksgiving. That is a more recent introduction. Thanksgiving is actually an American holiday. So the UK will have a semester that begins in October and typically goes straight through up to December. That is a very, very hectic semester. It's very packed. The UK has another term from January and another spring break. That doesn't happen the same way in the US. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because for you to plan your semester, to look at what your long weekends and your breaks are going to be. That is what you need to look at very carefully. That will determine how much you can travel around, when you do your projects, what are the other things you can pack in. So all of what I'm saying today is about what you can pack into that 1 year for which you have paid a lot of money. So look at the academic calendar, because you also want to see when you have the breathing space. If you're going to Europe, you're going to have countries very close by that you can travel to. That's what you do. You make your bookings and your reservations ahead of time, and you work around that. October is typically a crazy month. And that's a warning I like to give to all students who are going to North America or to UK, because that's when the pace really builds up for work. It's also the time that days get to be much shorter and things are dark by 5 o'clock in the evening. So you need to optimize a lot of your library work and think of October as a really crucial month. In the US, you will spend September mostly settling in. In the UK, it's off to a start with a bang in October. So you need to keep that in mind. I want to now come to another part of the academic experience. For most of you who would have done an undergrad program in India or a degree lower than that, the important thing is to remember that the modes of assessment are very, very different when you go for a study abroad program. For one thing, there is much less emphasis on information. The emphasis is really on critical thinking, on problem-solving skills. So you're going to be expected to use that approach in everything you do. When you're supposed to do a project, it's supposed to be an analysis. If you just describe what happens, it's not enough. So if you do find that your initial project or your initial research paper does not get you the grade that you think you should have got, it may actually just be the approach. I want to say the approach to assessment is very different in a UK university, European university, even more so in a North American university. So your problem solving skills, your ability to first begin with a research question, which is not a paragraph long, just 3 or 4 sentences long, that is really important. And if you are not in practice, there are lots of sites that you can look up to see how a research question is phrased. It should be short, well edited, and really hit the nail on the head about what is the problem that you're looking at in your project. Similarly, I want to say that a research paper that you write for your grad program will be a different kind of research paper, a very high and high quality expectation about how you lay out the research paper. The research paper that is expected of you is almost of a publishable level, that you should be able to write something which has all the wonderful specifications with the style guide and everything else. I want to say this not because you would not have done this before, but probably the thoroughness that you have to do it with is going to be a little bit different. What does this mean? Something about whether you can do it or not? No. It means that you need to spend a lot of time doing that. Every time you're doing references, citations, and doing them according to a particular style sheet, Harvard style sheet, MLA, whatever style sheet, APA, Chicago Manual of Style, whatever is the specified way. All of that takes a lot of time. And so a project that you think you might just write up in 2 days is not going to happen. A lot of it is going to need planning. Plan, plan, plan. That is going to be something that I repeat as I go along, because planning is going to let you optimize your time and let you give your best. I also want to say that one of the things we underestimate on Indian campuses is the importance of how knowledgeable a librarian is in a university overseas. Those professionals are very, very competent at helping you to even build up reading lists when you begin the research. So do not underestimate, set up a time, go and meet the librarian. They will help you to put it together. They will help you to find the resources. So make use of that facility. The library in itself, it might be a home for you for many hours and many weeks, because you're going to be doing your learning and you're reading there. Libraries are typically large and luxurious. In North America, you're even allowed to take your coffee inside. People are up till 12 and 1 in those libraries. They really are quite lovely. So I also want to say that many of your books might be very expensive, but the option of renting expensive books does exist. So get online when you're on campus and find out what is the possibility of buying books from a group that has already finished those courses, or even for renting the expensive books. When you arrive, I have a few things here to say which are just logistically important. The first thing you need to do, of course, is to register with student services. Why do we need to do that? I'm sure you know, and I'm sure you were planning to. I want to say that the sooner you do this, the better, because that the Office for International Students is what helps you with your ID card. Without your ID card, your status is not even legal. So in order to legalize your status, you want to get that ID card as soon as you possibly can. That ID card is critical for you to open your bank account. It will also give you the key that helps you to enter various buildings on campus. So that's your first thing. The second thing that you may not think of doing, but I recommend it, is to register yourself with the Indian embassy that is closest to your campus. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because it can be of great value if you hold an Indian passport. You can come to know about the events in case you get homesick and you want to be there. Sometimes a lot of really important professionals or entrepreneurs or other people arrive and do talks at those embassies that you would otherwise never get a chance to meet. But if you were to go up to somebody at the end of an embassy event and say, I'm an Indian student studying here in this university, they would speak to you for 5 minutes, and that's how you get a reference too. You can catch up with them another time. I also want to say that, the last 2 years have been very challenging, and students have not been able to go abroad. So you are actually a very special group of people. Given the events of the last 1 year or year and a half, we know that should you ever feel the need to get support, to get a flight home, the Indian embassy is your go-to place because you hold an Indian passport and the Indian embassies have an obligation towards emergencies that might be of a national level. For example, last year when students had to come back, the Indian government had these flights to bring back students from anywhere, even when commercial flights had stopped. So I would say this is something that is worth putting in. You can register yourself online if the embassy is not in the city in which you're going to be. There is also, especially in Europe, something called an international virtual identity card, which is recognized by UNESCO. If you're going to Europe to an EU university, you should check this out. It's at www.isic.org. This is a card that helps you to get all kinds of travel discounts across Europe, and it might be worth finding out what your other benefits are going to be. And of course, while on campus, you should check if there are part-time opportunities for earn and learn. Are you allowed by your status? Are you legally permitted to work and earn some money? This is different in every country, so I cannot give you anything which is a blanket fact for all the countries. Now I want to move to something else, is optimizing your campus life. I want to say that your first 2 weeks are critical so that you finish discovering everything that you need to. Please go to every orientation that is set up for international students. It's not a random tour. They have decided to put in certain kinds of information based on what they think you should know when you arrive. It will save you a lot of time. Not just about what your campus looks like, but also finding your way around to other facilities that you might need. And there are all sorts of facilities available, including research support, writing centers, which will help you to write and edit your research papers, psychological counseling, emotional counseling, all kinds of services are available. That's part of the package. You are paying for it, so you should utilize those services. Now a word about extracurricular. I know that you're going for academic programs. I also know that you'll be looking at internships and you'll be strategizing about your future careers. That is exactly how it should be. But I do want to say that when you are at a campus, in your study abroad experience, remember that you're going there also to broaden your horizons. Broadening your horizons is also about becoming a deeper thinking person, having a wider scope of information, knowing more about what's going on in other disciplines, not just your own. Deepening your skills is a very important aspect of that. Deepening your knowledge beyond your subject is a very important part of that. That is how you get your ROI, return on investment on the money that you're spending. You can build up many networks if you find yourself at events where there are other people who are thinking about the same things. You might be going to events on data analytics, but you should also go to events which are speaking about other issues. What is the perspective on environment in the country where you are? What is the perspective on development? How are they looking at geopolitical issues? What are the markets going to be like? Regardless of the subject that you're specializing in, the markets are going to be important. They're going to be important for your employability. So those trends in social, economic, cultural, political, all of those aspects of global politics are going to be really important. So don't miss on those events. Now we come to networking. Networking is not just about your cohort. Of course, networking is important among your peers, but there is an area that you should pay attention to, which is the professors that you're going to work with. I was speaking to a student a few days ago, and he's about to begin his MBA program very soon. And he said to me that he had chosen a university because he was looking at the professors who were there, because he felt that for specializing in what he wanted to do, he had professors there. Why is that important? It's important, of course, because you can have them to be your teachers, they will be your instructors, you will study with them. There's another big reason, which is once they know you, it's a connect for a long time to come. If they know you as a person, the next project they do, wherever they are a consultant, you can always write and say you'd like to be considered. Anytime later that you would like a letter of reference, that's the person who you're going to request. So I want to say that all of those things are important. And typically when you go to see a professor, check the office hours, set up an appointment. Typically, walk-ins are not a good idea in the office unless they say that walk-ins are okay. That is an extremely important part of building up connections with your professors. It is basically going to be a major investment that you never know how useful it's going to be in the future. I want to now come to social and cultural issues. Basically saying that keep in mind that you are preparing to live in a different culture. Be sensitive to new kinds of etiquette, new kinds of greetings. You might notice that dear sir is not what typically people say when they speak to their professor. So what should you say? You say, dear professor, or you speak to whatever person and say, dear Dr. Reynolds or dear Professor Reynolds. But typically, dear sir is something we do a lot in India, but nobody does it really on a campus overseas. The way that you meet and greet and eat in a foreign country is something that you should pay attention to just by looking around and seeing. Most of us have traveled so much by now and are so exposed to things through social media and otherwise that doesn't happen. But you know, there are little things that you will notice about etiquette in a particular country is just what are the topics that people think are familiar. Is that a good idea to speak about those things? Maybe in our culture, we speak a lot more about family. Maybe that takes time when you speak to somebody abroad. So just be sensitive to some of those things. Learn the local language if you can, appreciate the local culture, adapt a little bit. It doesn't mean you have to change, but there's nothing wrong in adapting where you are living. That's your home for a year or two or more, and it's always good to be able to adapt to the environment in which you are. Know the history and politics of that place, because the politics and the history of a place has a huge impact on the attitudes of the people. So the attitudes of the people around you are going to influence you. They will influence your life. They will have an impact on the way that you feel. And that is important. So if you know that a country has a history of welcoming people from other countries, other races, you will see the difference. If they are not, if they are insular and their history has been that way, they're not used to migrations from overseas, you will see the difference. It's good to be sensitive to that and not be taken aback by that. Now, finally, in the last few minutes, I want to speak about your social self and also your personal self. The more open and honest and authentic you are about yourself, the more friends you will make. You know, when we go abroad very often, and this is true even, you know, as a professor, you will be confronted with questions. Some of them are curious, some of them will irritate you. They will ask you about gender, they will ask you about caste, they will ask you about religion. Don't be on the defensive. Don't say, oh, we don't have this, we are a glorious culture, we have no problems. People read, people can see. It's always good to be in a discussion, to say, yes, there are inequities, because we know that inequities exist all over the world. Social injustice exists all over the world. So when there is an intellectual discussion or people are curious, it's best not to be on the defensive. It's best to be knowledgeable, and it's best to be diplomatic and discreet, but do not say things that people can check to be untrue. That is where people will probably call the bluff, and you will lose friends instead of making new friends. So this is something I have seen, that people tend to want to defend where they come from. It's a natural thing. But remember that people are not judging you personally. They are curious. So deal with issues in the way that you would deal intellectually. These are important things about settling in. They can irritate you, they can affect you because you feel somebody had a narrow point of view, somebody said something about, a particular aspect of India. Don't take it personally. You are an intellectual and you speak to it as an intellectual. I want to say finally that for many of you who have never lived abroad on your own, this is the time that you take charge. You take charge of your own health, you take charge of your mental health and your physical health. You are leaving in times when we have had recent histories of health problems all over the world. These are times of anxiety, they are times of worry. Look after yourself. You are precious. You are precious for your families, and you need to look after yourself. The first thing I asked somebody, recently I spoke to a student who had settled in, and I asked her, what's the most challenging thing? And she said, at the moment, it's time management. She said, there's just so much going on in my settling in, and I'm trying to do it all. I know I have to be responsible for myself, for the groceries, for the projects, for everything. I have to plan my internships. I have so much going on. And she said, the first thing I can say to everybody who's coming in is plan, plan, plan ahead. Time management is going to be a very key skill for all of you. Habits of mind, time management, taking charge of your health and your mental health are going to be really important. Have fun as well. Find your stress busters, travel, have a good time. Just watch the deadlines on your calendar. With that, I want to say we've had a great time with so many of you who've been through the journey with us at Leverage Edu. For those of you who haven't yet been with us, I want to say that we have a new huge scholarship fund that you can check your eligibility with that. So DM us, come to us. We look forward to seeing you. And all of you who are about to leave, we wish you all the very best. So you will do really well, we are convinced. Have a great time learning, traveling, growing. Thank you. Bye-bye.